Hey founders, if you have connected with some potential investors or advisors, but you're not quite ready to make the ask yet, or perhaps they're not quite ready to say yes yet, how do you keep them warm? And if you already have some investors, how do you keep them in the loop on what's going on with the business so that they can help you out in the future and maybe be interested in getting in on the next investor round? The biggest trick to that is investor update letters, regular information you send out that lets people know what's going on in your company. But there's no reason to reinvent the wheel on this. There's lots of good examples out there. I'm going to walk you through some of the key elements you want to have and share a link to my template at the end of this episode. Welcome to Feel the Boot, the science of startups. I'm your host, Lance Cottrell, and I'm here to help you along the difficult journey and vertical learning curve you're going to encounter as you launch your startup. I know what it's like. I have been there myself and helped countless other founders along their journeys. Feel the Boot exists because I want to help founders the way I was helped when I was launching my company. I remember how challenging that experience was, and I want to make it easier for the next generation coming along. So what do you get out of sending these regular update emails? Well, probably the most important benefit is it improves your chances of getting follow-on funding from everyone who invested in your earlier rounds, or get funding at all from investors that you've been able to contact, but you weren't quite ready for their investment. But there's a lot of other things you can get out of it. You can call on their experience. You can ask for introductions. You can have them signal boost your messages or introduce you to potential hires or contractors that you need. But it only works if they remember who you are and have an up-to-date understanding of what your requirements really are. The first question I often get is, how often should you be sending out these update emails? I think in the early stages of your company, you should be keeping people abreast of what's going on monthly. It's really pretty frequent, but things are changing incredibly quickly. Once you get past your A round, then you can probably scale it back to once a quarter, but certainly never less often than that. If you drop down to say twice or once a year, people will not remember you when you show up again. And it is challenging. I hear from so many different companies, the names all start to blur together for me a little bit. So being reminded frequently who you are and what you do makes a gigantic difference. So what should you be putting in your investor update letter? Well, the first key is to keep it succinct and short. We don't have a lot of time. We don't want to read long novels about your business. It's got to be easily skimmable to get the facts quickly. Focus on what your investors and advisors are going to want to know, not just the things you want to share. And keep a consistent format. I like it when I see the same information presented month after month after month, because it makes it much easier for me to track the kind of progress that you're having. I can see where you're having consistent difficulties and where you're having really stellar achievement. And that's exactly the information I want to get from these updates. Also remember to just stick to the facts. This is not a sales document, so all the hyperbole and fancy language doesn't belong here. I want to know exactly what's going on without the fluff. So give me the facts and then explain why those facts are relevant and important for me to understand. The first thing to put at the top of your newsletter is a TLDR, a too long didn't read section. So if there's only one thing you want me to get out of your newsletter, and there may be only one thing I get out of your newsletter, put it right at the top. What's the big news, the wow, the critical ask, the critical change in the company that everyone needs to know about? Put that right at the very top so everyone gets a chance to see it. Right below that, I suggest that you include a succinct version of your elevator pitch, just a couple of sentences describing what your company does. One of the curses of there being so many startups around and domains names being so constrained is that an awful lot of startups have very similar sounding names. And so when I see something coming in, especially if it's a somewhat made up nonsense kind of word, I'm struggling to remember which company this is. So tell me, what is it you do? That'll immediately spark my memory and I'll be back on track and remembering what you're doing, and so I can understand in context the rest of the email that you're sending. After that, I like to see some sort of a recurring dashboard, the same information every time. And it could be things like runway, team, fundraising, product, customer growth, retention, right? Some of the key performance indicators for your company, and rate how you're doing in each one of those categories on a 1 to 5 basis. Right? Our team is amazing. We found some really great people. That gets a 5. Maybe last time in your newsletter you were asking for help recruiting, and so back then it was a 2 or a 3. So you'd say it's now a 5, was a 2. And that way I can immediately see where the trends are in how you're doing in the company. And with each one of those, in addition to that simple score, just a sentence, maybe 2 sentences describing why that score is appropriate. What's going on? What do I need to know? Again, really quick, just the facts. I also encourage you to include a couple of numerical KPIs. What are the key drivers that you're using to navigate how you run the business? Include those in there so I can see what do you think matters and understand how you're doing at moving the needle on each one of those. So it could be revenue per month, it could be retention rates, it could be total number of active users in a week, number of downloads of your app. There's a huge number of things it could be, and it could change slowly over time as the business evolves. But be very careful about just reporting random numbers each time. It really matters to me to be able to see how these trends are evolving. And speaking of seeing how the trends are evolving, I love to see graphs in these emails because it instantly allows me to get that historical trend on what's going on. I don't need to remember where you were 3 months ago. I can instantly see, oh, you've done well month after month after month after month on this one key performance indicator. That's a great sign. Maybe I want to start introducing you to some friends who might be interested in investing in your company at this next level. Then let me know the big news in the business. What's going on? Do you have any new key hires or team changes, major promotions, partnerships, big wins or losses that have happened? Things that you talked about doing in the previous emails that have or haven't happened. It's important to let everyone know what the good and bad news is. Finally, at the end of the email, I encourage you to make an ask of your audience. What are the things you need? Brainstorm. You've got probably a diverse group of people who are reading this, so you can throw out a bunch of things. Are there introductions to potential employees, contractors, investors, media professionals, right? You're trying to get some coverage, possible partnerships. You may be asking for investment, saying the round is open and I'm looking for people to put in money right now. You could be looking for advice. So I need help with this kind of marketing, and if you could spend 15 minutes on the phone with me, I'd really appreciate it. Whatever this population might be able to do for you, feel free to ask. And because you've kept them in the loop, they're likely to have warm feelings towards you and be much more likely to step up. Now, a lot of founders seem to be somewhat concerned about revealing too much in these emails. They're very worried about trade secrets or revealing sensitive information that might get out into the world. And I think that's generally an overblown concern. Except for legal and HR issues, which are protected and you want to be sensitive about, I think you should feel, in general, comfortable sharing as much as you possibly can. Don't publish your literal trade secrets, but you're sharing financials, you're sharing information about the company, and you should be, because the audience won't really be able to understand what's going on unless you are pretty transparent with them. I created an example update letter based on some of the favorite ones that I've received over the years. And I'm going to put up a link. It's a Google Doc. You can download it, repurpose it for your own company, but it's got all the sections I've talked about and some example text for a made-up company to give you a sense of how I would use each one of those sections and the kind of information I would share. Feel free to download that and let me know whether that works for you or whether there's other templates that you found more to your liking. If you Google, there are lots of examples out there, and I'd like to know what you found to be most effective and what kinds of updates you give that have gotten the best impact for you from your investors. Thanks for watching this episode. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and if so, please give it a like. That tells YouTube that this is the kind of content you like, and we'll show you more of it. If you've enjoyed a number of episodes of Feel the Boot, I'd encourage you to subscribe and ring the bell. It'll make sure you get updated every time we have new content available, and it makes a huge difference to the channel, and I'd consider it a personal favor. If you'd like to get one-on-one help from me, come over to feeltheboot.com and sign up for our newsletter. In every newsletter, I include a link to get on my calendar for one-on-one coaching on any topic you want to talk about. I love talking to founders. I find that I learn a tremendous amount from meeting with you every week. Please also leave a comment on this episode. Let me know whether the template was useful to you and what other topics you'd like to see covered on Feel the Boot. Till next time, ciao.